All right. Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
It is such a pleasure and an honor to be with you this morning. Thank you all for being here at the Sacramento State Capitol to show support for Senate Bill SB 299. Secure automatic voter registration, what we like to call SAVER. We are here today to advocate for the voting rights of 4.17 million Californians. 4.7 million Californians are eligible but not registered to vote. So we have an important task today to ensure that we re-enfranchise all of our citizens in our democracy. I would like to start off with land acknowledgements. The history of Sacramento and the people is rich in heritage, culture, and tradition. This area was and still the tribal land of the Nisenan people. Sacramento was a gathering place for many local tribes who lived throughout the Central Valley and the foothills for generations and were the original stewards of this land. We would like to acknowledge the Southern Maidu people to the north, the Valley and Plains Miwok peoples to the south of the American River, and the Patwin Wintun peoples to the west of the Sacramento River. We would also like to honor the Wilton Rancheria, the only federally recognized tribe in Sacramento County. My name is Lene Norwood, and I am here today representing the California Grassroots Democracy Coalition, a coalition of over 140 organizations dedicated to helping California's most disinvested communities become empowered through pro-democracy reforms. The leaders and community members here today represent Black, Latinx, Latino, and Asian American communities from Orange County, San Diego, the Bay Area, Sacramento, and the Central Valley. The folks here today organize year-round and run integrated voter campaign management and engagement strategies across California to build power for our communities and to fight to ensure that working class communities of color have a voice in our government and democracy. Our speakers here today are women of color legislators, community leaders, and longtime advocates of social justice in California. I am proud to be standing with them. I am honored to introduce our first speaker and author of the bill, Senator Monique Limon.
Good morning. Buenos dias, everybody. It's great to be here. Buenos dias. It is great to be here with you. I'm Senator Monique Limon, and I represent the 19th District along the central coast of California. Today, I join you as the author of SB 299, alongside 140 grassroots organizations that are represented here today. Together, we are here to show our support for SB 99, which takes a significant step in advancing voter participation and ensuring that every single eligible Californian has the opportunity to participate in the electoral process. Our democracy thrives when more voices are heard, and every citizen has the power to influence the decisions that affect their lives. Today, over 4.7 million Californians are eligible to vote, but are not registered. That is 4.7 million Californians whose voices are not being heard. Research has shown that automatic voter registration significantly increases voter turnout, particularly among our marginalized communities, young folks, and first-time voters. By making registration seamless and secure, we can empower millions of Californians. Unfortunately, many eligible voters face barriers that prevent them from exercising their right to vote. These barriers can be logistically, procedural, or simply due to a lack of communication and information. SB 299 broadens access for eligible voters by streamlining procedures at the DMV and with the creation of a back-end automatic voter registration for all eligible voters. SB 299 can also remove barriers by automatically registering eligible citizens to vote when they interact with state agencies unless they choose to opt out. With time, we expect that this system change will ease and remove the burden on election administrators by improving the quality of our state voters' file. We are seeing success in similar policies in states like Colorado, Oregon, Nevada, Delaware, Alaska, Massachusetts, as well as the District of Columbia. So we think California should be next. Our state successfully implemented the first version of automatic voter registration at the DMV in 2015 and made it possible for registered voters to vote by mail through the pandemic and beyond. Now, we have the opportunity to build on these efforts. This bill is an opportunity to welcome nearly all unregistered Californians into our democracy. I want to acknowledge the tireless effort of everyone here today and our amazing coalition, the advocacy groups that have been part of these conversations, and the individuals who have supported our initiative. Your dedication to make our world and our voting system more inclusive and secure has been instrumental in bringing us to today and to this moment. Together, this coalition is working to demonstrate that California can be a leader in innovation and technology, as well as democracy and civic engagement. I am especially proud to speak alongside a group of powerful women of color today. Women of color represent almost 1/3 of citizen voting age women nationwide. By leading this effort, we are here to ensure that the voices and experiences of all, including women and people of color across California, are centered in light of voting rights. SB 299 ensures that all of us are seen, that all of us are heard, and that all of us are represented. We must take the necessary steps to ensure that California's diverse population becomes a diverse electorate that truly represents the power and voices of our state. I want to thank everyone for being here today. I know we have Assemblymember Holden, who is here as well today, and of course, the iconic and really important member of our state, Dolores Huerta. So I want to thank you all for being here and thank all of the coalition, every single person here. This is about representation, and we will advance our voter system to ensure that everyone's voices are reflected in the California voice. Thank you.
¡Sí se puede!
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 ¡Yeah!
Thank you so much, Senator Limon, for your leadership and courage. Next to speak is Itzel Manganda Chavez from Alliance San Diego.
All right. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. Thank you for being here. My name is Itzel Maganda Chavez, and I am proud to be here standing side by side with strong women of color who represent the power held by women across the state and who day in and day out care for our communities and for our families. I'm the Civic Engagement Director at Alliance San Diego, a human rights organization with the mission to build collective power to create a more inclusive democracy, a democracy where everyone can participate fully and with dignity. And every day we work hard to make sure that the communities most impacted lead in the civic work for long-standing solutions. When San Diego experienced unprecedented flooding in January, historically underserved communities were the ones who suffered the most. And overcoming terrible flooding is just one example of the kinds of obstacles that working class families of color face when it comes to civic participation. A lack of in-language resources and services for immigrants during the various stages of the immigration process makes registering to vote not only difficult, but also dangerous. A few weeks ago, I learned about Mr. Nasseri through our Legal Rights Department, where we provide immigration services. Mr. Nasseri shared about his experience and how it almost cost him his citizenship. In his role as a government translator, he was instructed to register to vote by his employer before he applied for citizenship. And later, when he did apply for the naturalization process, when he was required to report any voting or registration history, his application, of course, was flagged. Without legal intervention, Mr. Nasseri could have been deported through no fault of his own. And I am here to urge the legislature to pass Senate Bill 299 so that we can ensure that stories like Mr. Nasseri's don't repeat again, and so that we can help my community register to vote with fewer barriers. The right to vote is one of the most powerful tools that we have so that we can influence the policies that shape our lives. So by requiring people who aren't aware of the consequences or historical knowledge of the US voting process to opt in to register, California is putting vulnerable communities at serious risk, while at the same time, it's excluding other eligible voters from exercising this fundamental right. That is part of the reason why California has 4.7 million eligible but unregistered voters. You've heard that number, you're going to be hearing it over and over again. 4.7 million eligible but unregistered voters, who are majority people of color and immigrants. And as an immigrant myself from Mexico City, living in a border region, I am reminded every single day of the vulnerability of my own immigration status. I'm waiting any day now for my naturalization process to be approved, fingers crossed, before the election, and I get to vote. But while I'm fortunate to have lots of education and resources regarding the naturalization process to avoid the risk that Mr. Nasseri faced, with SB 299, it would be so much easier for me to help my community through their immigration process and to the ballot box with peace of mind. I could rest assured knowing that the state would automatically sort folks according to their immigration status without putting the burden of life-changing consequences on them. At ASD, we have seen firsthand the power of civic engagement in driving positive change. And in the last few years, we have turned out voters to pass measures that make San Diego elections work better. Now, we're joining hundreds of organizations to make sure that our state's elections work better too. I urge our lawmakers to pass SB 299 and for my fellow Californians to support this crucial legislation. Secure automatic voter registration is a bold and necessary step towards a more inclusive and equitable democracy. Together, we can ensure that every eligible voter in California has the opportunity to make their voice heard. Thank you. And before I step off this mic, thank you, I do want to say that women of color have been paving the way for decades now, and I am humbled and honored to welcome someone who needs no introduction. She is a civil rights icon and a foundational leader of the labor movement in California, and we're excited and honored to have her support for secure automatic voter registration for SB 299 So everyone, please help me welcome the one and only, the fearless Dolores Huerta.
¡Sí se puede!
Thank you very much.
¡Sí se puede!
Thank you.
¡Sí se puede!
Sí se puede.
With Dolores Huerta, ¡sí se puede!
Thank you very much for the warm introduction. I do have to say, as my son Ricky says, Mom, you're not an icon, you're an icon. And that's what we are all here today. We're the icons, right? We're going to make it happen. You know, it's really interesting to be here because I have been at this Capitol here passing laws on voter registrations since the late 1950s. Yeah, and I was able to get 2 bills passed. One of them was to get rid of deputy registrars in California. We passed that law. We passed another law to get the voting ballots in Spanish, okay? And we got that one passed too. But we know that that was not enough, right? It was not enough because we still have millions of people that are not registered to vote. And you know, if we look at the history of voter registration in our United States of America, this law that we are advocating for here today will get rid of the racist past that we have in voting here in the United States of America, okay? You know, we did the dedication early on to our Native American founders here of this land. Well, you know that they could not vote. They could not vote. And it wasn't until there was an amendment to the Constitution of the United States that Native Americans could vote in their own land, okay? You know, and so we have a similar situation here, where we have 7 million people that are not yet able to vote. And so we know that it is so important that we pass this law right now. So we have all the haters out there, you know who they are, and they are trying to do as much voter suppression as they can. And so this law that we have here today is a counter to the voter suppression, because we want to make it easy for everyone to be able to vote. Because we know that we cannot have a democracy until everyone is able to cast their vote and choose the representation that they need. Because the people that we represent, like our great senator here, is that they are the ones that are going to make the laws that are going to affect our lives every single day. And we know that marginalized people, low-income people, are often left out of the mix, okay? And so we have to be able to give everybody. Now, there's a lot of apathy, as we know right now, in our country. And people do not realize how important and what their vote really matters. So it's up to us, all of our organizations, to get out there and let people know that. And God knows that this law will make it so much easier. So we have to do whatever we can to make sure that we pass this law, automatic voter registration, that we get as many people registered to vote, and that we can, by doing this, we can stop all of the racist policies of the past that have kept people from voting in the first place, all right? So that's why I am so proud to join all of you here today and all of you community members to say that, yes, we have to do what we have to protect our communities that have now been affected by voter suppression, okay? So, and I want to say one thing too. We're really grateful to all the women here, but we know that the men in our gathering here are feminists, right? And they are. And so we want to give them a big old shout out, and we want to thank them for their leadership that they have given us in this great battle. So going forward, we know we have to do whatever we have to do, because unfortunately, not all of our lawmakers are as enlightened as Senator Limon, okay? That's the truth be told, okay? So that means that we have to go back to our communities, make sure that the senators hear from their members in their community, their constituents, to let them know how important this bill is. You know, we hear a lot of talk about democracy. We know that our country right now is in a crisis. And this is the one answer that we have to save our democracy, because when we save our democracy in the United States of America, we save our democracy in the world, right? So this fight is not just about California, it's about really making sure that what we call about a government by the people, for the people, right? By the people, for the people. And this automatic voter registration will make it sure that the by the people is really a part of our government that we need today. I think we can make this happen. What do we all say? So thank you very much, and let's get out there. Let's do the work that we need to do. Let's contact all of these people there in that building right now and tell them you've got to do your jobs. You've got to say, come on, Ruby. See that way? Thank you very much. Okay, we'll do one more little thing. I love this chant, okay? I'm going to say who's got the power. You're going to say we've got the power. And I want to say what kind of power? You're going to say voting power. All right, let's go. Who's got the power?
We got the power.
What kind of power?
Voting power.
Are we going to use our voting power? What do we say? ¿Se puede?
Sí se puede.
All right, gracias. Thank you.
Who's got the power?
We got the power.
What kind of power?
Voting power.
Y'all show some love for Queen Dolores. An icon, a historic figure in California for communities of color and workers. We appreciate you. So next up, I would like to call our next speaker. If we can have Kristen Nimmers from the California Black Power Network. Yes.
Good morning. I am the policy. Thank you for saying it back. I am the policy and campaign manager with the California Black Power Network. We are a coalition of 42 Black-led and Black-serving organizations across the state, working in collaboration to dismantle anti-Black racism and change the lived conditions of our community.
Yeah.
For Black Californians, voter registration is a reminder of the racist history and policies intended to disenfranchise us. From the civil rights movement to the present day, my community has fought tirelessly for the right to vote. Despite these efforts, Black voters continue to encounter significant barriers that suppress our political power. That's why we need to transform our voting registration system. SB 299 would bring this number, you're hearing it again, 4.7 million eligible Californians, an enormous step closer to the ballot. Our coalition has been doing outreach to the hardest to reach communities for almost a decade. And we have seen firsthand the ways that our registration system can be a barrier for folks. For Black immigrants like our Somali folks in San Diego who do not receive language translation, for the unhoused community who may not understand how to register without an address, and for our system impacted community who may be unclear of their rights. As a result of the so-called war on drugs, over-policing, over-sentencing of the Black community, a disproportionate number of felony convictions disenfranchise Black voters at a higher rate than anyone else. 1 out of every 13 Black adults loses their right to vote due to felony disenfranchisement. Unlike any other voter population, system-impacted people have experienced frequent changes to their voter eligibility, making it difficult to keep up with registration. With the passage of Proposition 17, California re-enfranchised over 50,000 new voters in the last 4 years. Yes, clap for that. However, many of those folks are still learning about this critical new right and how to exercise it. To that point, the ballot this November will feature a corporate and police-backed measure that is an effort to enhance criminal penalties by repealing Proposition 47, which would undo our progress by increasing sentences and perpetuating the mass incarceration of our communities. Every Californian on parole, on probation, serving a misdemeanor sentence or awaiting trial has a huge stake in this vote, but their right to entry and the barriers that they face are higher than anyone else. This is how our voices remain silenced. The fact is, restoring voting rights for people with felony convictions can improve public safety. Voting fosters a deeper connection with our neighborhoods, and that's why studies show that voting is correlated to a reduction in recidivism. By increasing voter participation among Black Californians, we can not only outvote the policies that harm us, but we can advocate more powerfully for the policies we need, like tenants' rights, reparations, public safety reform. I urge all lawmakers to pass SB 299 and take this essential step toward a more inclusive and equitable democracy. Thank you.
of the California Black Power Network. Last but not least, we have, actually this is not our last speaker, our second to last speaker. We have Sydney Fang, representing Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders for Civic Empowerment, also known as AAPI Force.
Good morning, y'all. Thank you all for being here today. My name is Sydney Wong, and I am the Policy Director at Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders for Civic Empowerment, or AAPI Force. We are a statewide network that engages hundreds of thousands of voters across the state to build political power for working class AAPIs. Today, I am proud to stand alongside our powerful coalition to demand support for SB 299, crucial legislation that will implement secure automatic voter registration in our state and bring more voters like us to the ballot in California. That's right. For the past 2 years, our coalition has advanced the campaign for SB 299, but we are part of a movement for a more authentic democracy that spans over a century. California has had a long legacy of suppressing the votes of working class, Black, and immigrant voters by design through the Chinese Exclusion Act, through the poll taxes, through literacy requirements, just to name a few. Let me be clear, voter registration was introduced during California's most exclusionary time period, and its racist legacy persists today. Without SB 299, we risk repeating history. Even though the women's suffrage movement was led by women of all backgrounds, the adoption of the 19th Amendment in reality only allowed white women to vote. For decades after, Native American, Black, Asian American, and Latinx suffragists continued to face barriers to the ballot and had to continue to fight for our own enfranchisement. As women of color in our movement, we refuse to accept anything less than the full franchise that our ancestors fought for and that our communities deserve. With SB 299, eligible voters will be automatically registered when they present documents to government agencies like the DMV. And this will eliminate the registration barrier that keeps our communities from the polls while ensuring that people who do not speak English as a first language will be registered to vote and receive voter registration in our preferred languages. This matters to families like mine. As a child of immigrants and refugees who speak Cantonese, I was my family's sole interpreter and civic navigator, both for my household and my aunts and uncles, from the very moment I learned how to read. This was an enormous responsibility that I know many of us share in our respective families. To be honest, I wasn't able to hold their hand through every form from the city and the county and state, and we had to prioritize the most urgent messages, and voter registration, unfortunately, was not one of them. It wasn't until I was a student at UC Berkeley that I found an AAPI voter guide online. I lit up when I saw the Chinese language guide. My parents would finally be able to participate in an American election and understand the issues that matter to them. Eventually, they were able to opt in for in-language voting, and now voting is just so much more seamless for our family. I am here to remove this laborious extra step that is keeping so many of our people from making themselves heard. We must ensure that every eligible citizen, again, 4.7 million, can exercise our rights to vote with as few barriers as possible. SB 299 is more than a policy proposal. It is a commitment to a more inclusive, a more just, a more authentic democracy. So when I say SB, you say 299. SB 299. SB 299. SB 299. Thank you so much.
puede!
Sí se puede.
What do we want?
Savers.
When do we want it?
Now.
What do we want?
Savers.
When do we want it?
Now.
Yes. Thank you so much for those words, Sydney. Powerful words. Last up. Last up, we want to acknowledge one of the co-authors of SB 299, Assemblymember Chris Holden. Y'all show him some love. He is here standing in solidarity with our Women of Color group and the California Grassroots Democracy Coalition to reinforce the need for SB 299. Thank you, Senator Holden. Assemblymember Holden.
Well, thank you. Look, I'm going to be very brief because I'm sweating. But I'm here to really lend my voice in support, not only to Senator Lamone's efforts behind AB 299, but to the Women's Coalition and bringing together so many other coalitions throughout the state of California behind this important and righteous legislation. So many times, when we find ourselves in these moments where circumstances are out there that are impacting on our quality of life and impacting on what our future looks like, and those forces don't necessarily look to include our voice. This is an opportunity for us to remind ourselves that our vote is our voice, and to create a seamless pathway for those who are eligible to vote, 4.7 million in California, to be able to be automatically registered to vote. Just think what kind of impact that will have on marginal districts where it comes down to a few thousand votes here or even a few hundred votes there. These are the moments where this kind of work, this kind of putting the seed in the ground is going to yield a harvest, because it will set an example to other states around this union how important it is to make voting easier for its citizens, not harder. And when we see that kind of movement in other states and other parts of this country where there is barriers being put up to the ease of voting, we have to say no. And this is how we say no, with our voice, because what? Our voice is our vote.
Thank you all for coming out. Show some love for the California Grassroots Democracy Coalition and our women of color mobilizing for SB 299. This concludes our press conference. Thank you all, and we will see you inside the big hood. Time for visits. Thank you.